beyond our wildest dreams, a realm beyond reality that the gatekeepers and guardians have always told us consists of nothing but tricks of the eye, weather balloons, swamp gas, sand cranes, fairy tale myths of monsters, crackpot conspiracy theories, and desperate cries for attention.
We know this realm exists, and it's just beyond the horizon. The preset path, the well-worn walkways where the cynics want us to stay.
Instead, give this a listen. Put on your headphones, adjust your volume, close your eyes, and fasten your mental seatbelts, because the twilight-tinged turnoff from reality's alluring highway is looming just ahead.
We're about to leave the plane of the easily explained, the couldn't possibly be's, and the no way I just saw what I saw's, for the spaces and places where everything is possible, and if you stay long enough, even probable. We're about to take a journey into the outer realms.
All right, now I ask you, was it fate or free will that about halfway through that intro, there's a dude who looks exactly like you looking through a string of lights? It was like you were always there.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. And meant to be is a really nice, that's a really nice phrase. So here we are. I have just a little bit of guidance on a little blue card tonight. Because this is something, Craig, my journey with this started in 2002 is when I started doing, mantra-based meditation, doing drum journeys, astral traveling, shamanic kind of stuff. It sort of as a way to enhance my writing. I was doing a lot of poetry at the time, and I came up with this sort of form called New Mystic Alchemy and had a book published and all. Also too, I have to say, a lot of my practice was because I was a young Sicilian from New Jersey and I needed to lengthen my fuse. I had a terrible temper, and just the breathing and stopping, think before you talk. I mean, it took me forever to nail it. I will tell you, and maybe let's calibrate the cynic or skeptic meter. I was meditating one day. This was about 2003. It was probably about a year into my practice. My ass came off the floor for a split second.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was just enough to go, hey, wait a minute, I think I'm, and then nope. And then one night my third eye almost opened, dude, and I felt my temperature going up, and I had this vision of myself kind of like bursting into flames. I totally wussed out, never got ever close again. And then there was another time that I was meditating. I was really into it. I was doing my thing, and in my mind's eye, I saw like this black form in front of me. And then this giant, it was like something out of like a Tolkien movie. This eye opened up, and it was this giant yellow snake's eye. And again, I freaked out. Whenever I get really, really close to something like really, really life-changing or whatever, I always freak out. But yet, since 2002, I've been doing this practice. And now I added the astrology thing. But have you experimented with any of this kind of thing?
A little bit, just like through myself, it's like secondhand experiences. I've never actually had the opportunity to do, go to anything, like the sweat lodge type that, just go through any of these type of activities. I mean, that's one of those I would like to experience one, because for anybody that's listened to me in our shows together, anyone's from the shows I've been before, they know I always call myself a cross between Mulder and Scully. I am the skeptical believer. I mean, it's like, I want to believe. I mean, I have the picture. I want to believe right there. It's like one of those things. But at the same time, I have to discount everything that can be, just proven either through science or something. I have to get that out of the way first, and then I can do it. It's just one of those, whether it's calling in the UFOs, doing what the
Which I also
C5,
do.
whatever. Yeah, and this one, it's for me. It's like I would have to discount everything, planes, flight path. I would have to go through all that, and then I'd be like, okay, I can't explain this, and then that's what makes it cool. So like,
Yeah.
what you just talked about, lifting up off the ground. It's one of those. That would be one of those things that's really cool because it's like you can see, because you could verifiably, like if you're sitting there watching, dude, Joey just floated off the floor. Boom. There's no way to explain that, It's
Right.
so that's what makes those experiences that much more, interesting and exciting is when you can't explain something, whether it's paranormal, what version of paranormal. And that's kind of where,
Right.
like when we talked about this topic, I really liked it, the fate and free will, because it's one of those that there's not really, there's not real definitive. Nobody can prove that fate exists or free will is the only way. It's just, there's that, it's kind of, we talked a little bit first. It's like, while I'm drinking this, at what point is this half empty or half full?
Cheers.
Yeah. So it's, you have, you're determining how you look at it,
Yeah.
coming home. Did you go left or right this time? Well, that's a choice you made. Or was it fate that because you made the choice to go left, you didn't get in the car accident that would have occurred by going right? And, and it's those type of things. It's like, can we definitively say one or the other is the definitive truth? No, but we know that there was a car accident and there's a good chance I might have been in that one. But it's like, was it one? Just, I likened it to intuition,
Mhm.
to a lot of stuff like this, Chris, I believe in that one where it's just, you have that just impression, like, you know what? I don't feel like I should go on the freeway today.
Yep.
And you go another way. And then you follow it. That's where I think we'll have a really good debate on that thing, in a discussion with everybody of what, would that be determined fate, or would you consider that was just a free will choice and you just happened to tune into what you needed to?
Yeah. Now this statement is way further than I probably even am willing to go.
Well, that would fall. Yeah, that's false. Definitely in the fate.
That's almost all in on fate there. I by nature, and so when I was, and some of you have heard this before, so I'm sorry, but I grew up in the Catholic Church, Catholic school, and everything. When I went to my first confession, and I was, I had that screen in between me and the priest, and I had him alone. I said, "Can we talk about the dinosaurs and Adam and Eve, please?" And I heard this voice through the screen, and I went, "It's a matter of faith, Joseph." And I was like, "No, no, I don't want to hear that. Let's have a discussion." So I have always, I think I'm a damn good skeptic because I really, I have two distinct personalities that I talk about in my storytelling book, especially Joe and Joey. Joey would be like the all in on fate guy, but Joe would very much be the free will guy. Like nothing's going to alter because what the hell is the point? So when Tanya and I, some of the deepest most interesting discussions we've ever had, and I hate it that she can't be with us tonight, she had a late client, is the idea of soul contracts, right? So there's this whole school of thought that before you come here, you work out your curriculum and you're coming to the earth and you're trying to work through karma that you're bringing from other lives. And Rachel's with us. Rachel did a palm reading for me. Oh, it was the first year we did the show. I think we're in year 5 now. And there were some really uncomfortable things. She was like, "I can like edit." I was like, "No way. I'll put my palm up there and you just read." And there were things about my health, and there were different kinds of things as far as that, but I always think about the science too, and I think that's what makes me a really good field investigator, because Tanya's pure intuition, pure psychic gift, like whatever that is, you know what I mean? So I work as the counterbalance to that. Like, when was the last time I changed the batteries? What is there a heating system in the building that just gives, so on and so forth. Like I also I'm usually in the uncomfortable position of when we get photographs from really excited people, I have to debunk them and talk about lens fractals and all kinds of things, or notice that light there. Or so I, oddly enough, I'm with you, and I think that I've continued with some of these things for as long as I have because I've been so rigorous about them. like let's take for instance, Craig, and I don't mean to hog. Let's
No,
take
no,
like
you're
drum
good.
journeying, or
Mhm.
you know, like an army goes into battle and they're playing a drum, but you also have drum circles for First Nation people. You use metronomes and things like that to put yourself in an alternate state, or drumming. It changes your brainwaves. It literally changes your brainwaves. We are in an alpha state most of the time, a little aggressive, kind of wide awake. You go to beta, you go to theta, you go to delta, and it's all based on changing because your brainwaves will entrain with the drumming. Now, whatever
Yeah.
cool mystical crap happens on the other side of that, or mystical stuff, is that discounted simply because your brain was in a different state? I don't think so. So that's sort of a snapshot of
Yeah.
how I operate.
Yeah. And I was just, as you were talking about that, because that was one of those things where it's just, like the position of the stars. Like I'm a Libra. And so for me, that's one of the things we can address it. You can just chime in if you want to address. I real quick, I'll DB on that one. I see that's the thing, King. I don't know. I'm just, because that's always been the
Yeah.
debate between religion and science is you could go here. There's one thing. I mean, they may have something in common. I mean, I've heard even like the theory, and I've kind of held onto this too, that possibly like every day in the Bible is equivalent to 1 billion years. Well, if that's the case, science and religion is almost dead on, because in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, that would be the Big Bang, boom, billion years. And so that they go through there and like I think the most recent one was somewhere around 5 to 6 billion years is what they think their age of the earth is. Well, that would be on the sixth day God rested. Okay, so now, boom, the earth is formed, and you go through those things. I'm the believer of science, where you look in here, you'll have, especially the religions, will say that the earth is only 6,000 years old. Well, I'm
Yeah.
being geology. I can look at a mountain and I know how long it takes for some of these sediment layers and stuff to form through pressure. And the only way this happens is under intense pressure and stuff. And then it has to, through tectonics, get pushed up into the mountain. So when you see all these layers, that was many things that take place that takes way longer than 6,000 years to even occur. And when you're having layers where the dinosaur remains are being found that are under these things that take longer than 6,000 years, well, at that point, the Bible and science don't match up. They don't.
Right.
That doesn't match, and that's where that. So that's like for there. I mean, does that mean there's not some other explanation? I just know that based off of current knowledge and stuff, there's not really a way to jive what would be in a biblical text with what we can see scientifically. That's
Right.
the struggle right there for a lot of people to bridge that gap between the two.
Right. Yeah, there you go. So King's talking quite a bit about frequency, right? Tesla said it. Everything is energy, frequency, vibration. Absolutely true. Oddly enough, that's part of the reason why I'm really taking this astrology journey very seriously, because planets have energy, there are different energies. It gets interesting though for me, Craig. There's so many different forms of the astrology and these subsets of astrology. It gets so complicated in a hurry that it feels to me like the US tax system. I'm going to make this needlessly complicated because it excludes some people. It sets me up as the expert, and someone is going to have to change money in order to learn the secrets and go through an initiation. I've never loved that, like the Elysium mystery schools and the Minos stuff and all of that. Mithraic rites, Greek, going all the way back. I hate the exclusionism of it. Like, I have a secret and you have to do blah, 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 blah. We have things from my, I guess you would call her my grandmother-in-law, deceased. But she was into all this automatic writing, fascinating stuff, channeling. It's where Tanya and Jolie get a lot of their gifts from, that lineage. But she belonged to this Astara organization, where every month you pay your money and you get your 4-page, it's 8.5 by 11, and it's like 4 pages. And the next secret will be divulged when you pay your next $1.50 or whatever, is back in the day. Scientology with their stupid, levels, their bridges and all that.
Yep.
Thank you, by the way, for all the people who watch that show. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ray. That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good keyword to get people.
Yeah, well,
interested.
it's funny. Like every time we talk about the soul contracts, like what you said, first thing that pops in my head is Scientologists that have to sign that 1 billion year contract.
Yeah.
So, so it's kind of like that, and
Yeah.
kind of back to what just saying that just made me think too when you said like with signing the soul contract, that would almost, I would say, would almost be locked into the free will category. That it wasn't fate, that you made a free will choice to enter into that. And so now you've gone
Yeah.
into, so in this one, so
Yeah.
it wasn't, so in that aspect, it would be the free will would win over fate, that it wasn't fate that you were on this area, that your soul, made a conscious decision to enter into this state and proceed through that.
Yeah. And yes, Gigi, I was saying, Gigi Cat, I was saying to Craig right before the show started that it's really not an either or. And on our banner, we didn't do verses, or it's really not, because she's right. All of those things are great organizing principles, and I use them all. And Tanya's very, very talented with them. But what I do with them, how often I engage with them, how far I take it, like I'm making decisions with the astrology. I don't want to do like a reading of like every position of every planet in my house. To me, that's too complicated and too limiting. But there is something, Craig, about this precession of the planets, whether it's 19 years for Jupiter, it's 80 years for Uranus, or the different things. I was always very and I still kind of am. Like someone posted yesterday and was like, Mercury retrograde again. And it's like, if I never hear the term Mercury retrograde in my life, first of all, okay. This is what happens when I free will, bub.
That's why we're doing it.
When I was in middle school, I don't know if you did this. You're only a little bit younger than me, 6 years or so. But it was like, I loved music, and so many of my friends were like hardcore music, and we were musicians, and we, had our albums and our Columbia record house, like 900 records for a penny, and then you're in servitude for the rest of your life. Like I would do that over and over. And a kid would come up and go, "Oh, dudes, Led Zeppelin, man." And you'd be like, "Right, Led Zeppelin, what's your favorite song?" "Stairway to Heaven, man." Like, what other song do you know? Or like Jethro Tull, "He's So Cool." And you're like, get out of here. And this person who puts themselves forth as an expert, that ugly word, was like, "Oh, another Mercury retrograde." And it's like, you like are listening to Stairway to Heaven and thinking that you're a rock and roll aficionado. First of all, there are 3 retrogrades right now. And all that means is that they just kind of stay put. They move backwards, but they don't actually, because planets don't reverse their orbits. But they stay stationary in a house, and things kind of don't move, or they slow down. But it's a great opportunity. The Italians say aspetta.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Slow down. Every once in a while, it's good to just slow down and go, I don't have to push. I can just stop and take stock of what's going on around me. So I'm with Gigi Cat on all this stuff, a tarot, or throwing the bones, or bird auguries, or cattle guts, or oracles. It just gives you some information that you can use or not use. That's the free will. Back to you, my friend.
Oh, well, I'm going to give a shout out to a couple of ladies at Ginger's Baking Company here in Winter Garden, Florida. We were having this topic about the show tonight. And so, hey, hi, Cassidy and Mandy, how are you? It's like they said they were going to watch the show. So
Very cool.
Hope they're enjoying it. But Mandy was really big on the astrology side, that this stuff really matters. And I'm kind of the one where I don't really feel like the position of Saturn or Jupiter or Mercury is has a direct effect on like the decisions I'm going to make that day. But scientifically, we know that the position of planets has gravitational has these effects on planetary bodies. So it would make sense that even on the molecular cellular level, that it could have that same physical draw, and it could have that same, there could be, especially how you started the show on the metaphysical side, if somebody's really in tune to that type of thing where you're on, you're really fine tuned in it, you would be able, most likely in that aspect, would be able to tell when something like that would actually have kind of a drawing effect. You would actually feel something's different, something has changed, and that would make sense when a position of a planetary object is closer in one. Well, like I said, retrograde. It's not that the planet's here and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I'm going backwards. No, it's just in a cycle. It's just retrograde means it's reached its peak and now it's coming back down. Well, you would feel there would be that off feeling. But there's some people that, I mean, they literally do not do anything with electronics, do not do anything with, they just go, they change their entire life over the fact that Mercury's in retrograde. And I'm like, it's always happening. So, I mean, pretty much, what are you doing? Shutting down half the year? I can't do anything because stupid Mercury again. I just laugh. I'm like,
retrograde really does help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's kind of thing. So
I'll share some stuff with you guys. There are probably, because there are a lot of charlatans out there. So I really want to say tonight, it's 2:36 a.m. here in Eastern Ohio. Craig, it'll be sooner for you, I believe. Or maybe I'm just horribly showing my ignorance. But a lunar eclipse tonight. So there's a lunar eclipse.
Yep.
Which is a really kind of cool thing. People freak out about eclipses. People freak out about eclipses like we're still like in the Middle Ages. There's a really cool
Babylonian prophecy.
Yeah, right. I saw that today, and I changed my advertisement, or I changed my post promoting tonight's show. That is scaremongering horse crap. It isn't worth anything. The end of the Dark Kingdom. What? No. Yeah. So guys, I'll tell you some people that Tanya and I are listening to that we find are really solid for different reasons. If you want positive astrology, so you don't want to hear any darkness, any negativity at all, go to Maxine Turner. She's been doing it since the 1970s. She's got a great Southern accent. She's wonderful. She happens to love Scorpios. But Maxine is great. There's a guy named Terrence Gardino. And he'll, like, in 7 minutes, he'll kind of tell you what to look for. He bases a lot on the position of the moon and the sun and kind of goes from there. There's a woman named Pam Gregory, very well-spoken, wonderful English accent, very, very proper, wears these high-collared tunics, almost like she's checking in from the Star Trek future, which is cool. And then these guys, Chris Brennan and Austin Coppock, are wonderful. There's also a guy, Nick Duggan Best, who also works with Chris Brennan. What I like, Craig, is there are kind of guys. So they will do, Nick Duggan Best and Chris Brennan will do 6.5 hours on the historic precession of Neptune and Aries. And they will give you 6.5 hours of history. Now, the Joe part of my brain, right? And speaking more to maybe where you're coming from, the more data, the more patterns. It's inevitable. So, would they make as big an impact in 2 hours? No, that's probably why they gave up 6.5 hours of their lives, plus all the post editing, the little corrections they flash up on the screen. Like the tarot, like Joe said, it's a way to look things another angle. I call them organizing principles. So I'm kind of artistic about it. I take a lot of notes in my book in different color markers, and I color in and just let it. And then what I do, or what I've been doing, is I transfer it to my calendar, and I'm using this blue felt tip pen. So each day or whatever, where there's something to look out for. So, for instance, and this will show you the harmlessness of it. June 5th, Jupiter and the moon were conjunct, and that was a good day to do important things. So Tanya launched the website for her new spiritual practice. What did I do? I did I did a really important entry on my blog that I've been doing, my Joey Medea Storyteller blog on Blogger. You guys can check that out if you want. There's no harm in that whatsoever. But if
Nope.
the moon and the moon and Jupiter, I have this real affinity for Jupiter, and it was weird. Tanya and I have a great app on our phones called Skyview. There's a free version and you can just use it, but you hold it up to the sky and it'll show. Every once in a while I'll post on my Facebook pictures of it and it'll show you the constellations and all. And Jupiter and the moon and I believe Mars were in a straight line. It was beautiful, and like Mars was in the head of Taurus. It was gorgeous. You guys can find it on my Facebook if you want to see it. Well, anyway, I was so excited. I came upstairs. Tanya was already in bed. I was like, my man Jupiter is like so big in the sky and so bright. Craig, I kid you not, laid down in the bed. We fired up the sky view, and Jupiter was directly over my head, like directly over my head. It was cool.
Yeah.
It's harmless, right? Like I'm not shaving my head.
I've always been Orion, and I'm like I said, I plan on getting the constellation Orion in the Libra constellation, on here. I said I'm a Libra. I go, but and it's one of those things too. It's kind of like the same thing. I go, I don't know if the position of the planets or the position of the constellations or anything like truly made the definitive, because I think it falls under the term. I should have brought it up when King, with his comment too, is that falls under the determinism, thing where this is a predetermined, that there's no way to deviate, that this is forever been in this thing. And I feel like a lot of people hold complete stock in that one, it's kind of that determinism thing where because of when I was born, because one of the stuff, that is what ultimately kind of leads to who you become as a person. Right. And I've always been the other one. I've used this example, and the ladies there at the baking, I told them today too. It's just the same thing. As a writer, you have two options today. You could write a really cool, kick-ass book again, put that out for publish, or you could walk outside right now and stab somebody in the neck with his pen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I said nothing about the planets, nothing that determined, was predetermined. That was you making a choice, and that's where I kind of fall into the free will thing. It's like I ultimately make the choice what to do with this object. It wasn't determined by some predating, the word just failed me. It's just no Trump. It wasn't a prophecy that at one day the bearded guy would come as a raging lunatic out the house and stab somebody in the neck with a pen. I go, it just me snapping. I mean, which I wouldn't do.
Yeah, and I don't think everybody, correct me if I'm wrong, the Warrens who somewhere along the line, I think we have it on the schedule maybe for April. I want to debunk I really want to do an episode debunking the whole Amityville horror thing, and I'm not a big fan of the Warrens, but the Warrens would use the astrology defense according to his house. I don't know. Folks, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anyone's ever tried to do an astrology event where Mars was in his house of Aries and he was predestined from this time of birth to stab somebody in the neck with a pen instead of write a really cool novel. I don't think anybody's tried that.
I mean, is there, that's like the counter argument to this. Would there be something to the fact that more serial killers are Geminis? The Gemini, I think it's Gemini and Scorpio. It's just like you said, is there something, they would say, well, what about this? I'm like, I'm going to give you, that's a great point. I go, but do I ultimately feel that because the kid was born under this astrological sign that was what ultimately would determine? No, I would probably say because that person's father or family member beat them every day for their life and tortured them, or it did something that's ultimately what led to them becoming a serial killer. But I can't discount the fact that that there's some signs that have very little or no well-known serial killers.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the room. I'm listening to the argument. I will take it in. I will gladly give an audience to to why that is the case, because I'm like, once again, Joey said it a couple of times. There's no right or wrong. They're both equally plausible outcomes. Yeah. It's just Hello, Mark.
It was Gene Dixon, Joe. That was primarily the Reagan's astrologer. I was part of a movie. Joe, you happen to see the movie. I don't know if you have a copy or not, but where the screenwriter, who was also the executive producer, scheduled the whole movie according to astrology, and the movie still didn't turn out very well. So these things only go so far. Craig, I definitely want to talk about quantum physics, but
Mhm.
and I don't know if you do you want to comment on this? I think you've had people on your show or some of the Three Beards have posted videos about this kind of thing, or the voices howling out from the, that are maybe the chained angels and all that.
Yeah, I'm. See, this is where it
Oh,
falls into
sorry.
the thing
Or
where
we could just let it go.
no. But this falls into the thing where it's the thing. It's hard to prove. It's hard to prove. It's
Mhm.
especially we just did a show. A couple of weeks ago. AI. On that same aspect where especially now it's so easy to create one. This is completely off topic, but if anybody knows the whole Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, thing with WNBA, there's the sports thing where people, there's like discussion who's better, stuff. There was a complete AI deep fake that came out with Caitlin Clark just trashing Angel Reese, telling her to shut up, and all this stuff, completely fake. And that's where you come into these ones where you'll have the ones like the Euphrates dried up right here, and then you hear the screaming sounds of the creatures that are being released. These are fake things. So I go, it's really hard for me to, because it's one of those, I don't know. I have a hard time, I feel bad saying this too. I honestly think a lot of the Bible was allegory. Me personally, I think a
Oh
lot of it is
yeah,
just
yeah.
stories to learn from, just like campfire stories. What did the elders teach the kids? Was there really possibly a creature out there that would tear the souls from you and eat you and throw you into, and you would become, no, it was probably more of a story that was crafted to keep the young ones closer to the campfire so that way they wouldn't get eaten by a bear or a wolf or something because they got out there. And so the scary story came in through time. Stories become legends become, manifest realities. And that's what I think a lot of these ones, like stuff like that, I think a lot of these ones were told, one, just to keep people from getting hurt, from straying off. And so that's,
yeah. No, I think that's right. And astrology, right, gave birth to our mythology. So many of our monuments, Stonehenge and the Sun Gate, and entire cities, Teotihuacan, and all of that. Angkor Wat. What's the other one? That Hiram Bingham. Isn't that terrible? I know the guy who Machu Picchu.
Yep.
These entire huge building. Or the fact that the the pyramids on the strip there, the three, the Great Pyramid and the other two pyramids align almost perfectly with Orion, and so do some Mesoamerican. So a lot of effort was put into this stuff.
And that's where I think, like with the astrology, that's what I said. I think it has valid points because there's so many, prior civilizations. Everybody looked to the stars, looked to the thing, for who doesn't want guidance on things, tarot. You want guidance on things that you don't know, that there's that mystery. You're looking for something to give you the answer. And that's one of those things, is do these things. And I think with astrology, in a way, it kind of, it has that where it's something physical that you could see, that you can physically watch. It has order, it has structure, and it's something that helps, anybody that has structure, it's calming, and that's, so I can definitely get behind people that's what they live by, because one, it's, it works. It's not, if you honestly feel that like you said, launching the website at a certain time is the better one, there's probably a really good chance that that's going to work because you're putting positive energy into the effort of doing the thing.
Right on.
And so
let's and I think Amy's here. I personally believe that astrology alone does not determine outcomes. That's right. That's good. And let's talk about quantum physics a little, Craig, because you were talking about that too. I think of all of this. I have taken all of my spiritual practice, because I read like every quantum physics book that was out there for like, you know, from Stephen Hawking to Michael Talbot's, you know, Physics and the New Mystics to Fritjof Capra's The Tao of Physics to Tim Allen. I'm Not Really Here. Like, he wrote a fabulous book on quantum physics. But all this, the Dancing Louis Masters, right? Gary Zukov, all that stuff. I have all of those.
Simulation theory really falls heavily on the quantum, quantum level.
And what really I get, and this has to go with your slit experiment, which you can talk about that, is that wave possibilities are rising up all the time, right? I can take this pen and I can conduct a band with it, or I can use it as a fake mustache, or I can write the next great American novel, or I can stab myself in the eye, which I almost did after my divorce decades ago. I can do all these different things with this pen. They're all wave probabilities, but until I actually, or I can just take it and I can put it down and not interact with it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was my free will that night. So if I had, you know, in my despair and my loneliness, my uncertainty about the future, because I didn't have any guidance at all about what was going to happen, and I was shamed by my divorce and my wife's affair and all this kind of stuff. It was still my free will and my curiosity about what was coming next. And then I sort of just made that the wave probabilities are always coming up. So I agree, Amy Jo, the precession of the planets, the positions in the houses, the various signs, what's going on with the moon, what's going on with the sun. These are wave probabilities that are going to allow, so they're going to allow, or they're going to allow certain wave probabilities to come up. So that's useful. If it's today is really a day where you should really be careful not to get into a confrontation, then the wave probabilities for a confrontation, the odds of that confrontation could be really high. So it's good practice to be extra aware that day. Know what I mean, Craig? But I think if you don't go to work every Friday the 13th and you're missing out on really good opportunities, or you won't get on an airplane because of XYZ, because of the astrology and all, and so you're missing out on the birth of your grandchild or something, that could be really debilitating. That could be debilitating.
Oh, and
that's robbing you of your free will.
Oh yeah, and just kind of like to springboard off of that too, it's one of those, this is where, and this is going to blow everybody's mind, this is where the fate comes into play, where it's just when one of those, you're feeling down, you're at that point where it's like things are falling apart, but that person suddenly gets the feeling like, I'm going to reach out to Joey, see how he's doing. And so you answer the intuition thing and you call. Well, it's that phone call is what snaps you out of it and brings you back to where, you get back on the path. And so the case would be, well, it was fate that, this person decided to call Joey at that moment, and brought him, because if they hadn't made that call, then, things would have been complete. So that wasn't Joey's free will. It was fate that phone call came at that moment. And that's where you could make the glass half empty, half full comparison, where they're both equally correct. Was it fate, or was it just simply somebody's free will to make a phone call, and they just listened and they made a call, and they just happened to coincide with, it was the perfect timing to help Joey in that moment. Yeah. And that's kind of where, like, this debate, and there's this, and then like we were talking about, then when you throw quantum mechanics in there, the fate people, this is when the determinism really hits a wall in the quantum thing. And I said, where do you want to go with this one? Because this is
go
everybody
to the split experiment. I think that's a great one.
Yeah, because determinism says that everything is, there's structure, order, everything follows patterns, everything follows things. You go here, well, then you get to the slit experiment. Layman's terms for anybody, when the experiment changes, particles are placed through slits. There's there's slit A and there's slit B. And then what happens is when you observe it, it changes. And so what you'll do is, when you don't look at it, yeah, I don't have it right in front of me. So if I get this backwards, I apologize. But it's one of those, if you don't look at it, it disarray. There's, the particles just kind of go everywhere. But then when you observe it, they are in perfect line. They go through the slit. And it could be opposite, and I apologize if I get that wrong. That's where the observable thing, to where it's not a predetermined thing. It's through the actions of the experimenter looking at this that creates that reality. Joey brought up Schrodinger's cat, and I brought up the one, it's the breakable object inside of a box where if you smash it, it's broken. That's our, that's thing, but you do not know how it's broken. The way the cracks line, any of that has not been created until you open the box and you observe what it is. And now you know what's been broken. You can determine how it's been broken. So you're creating reality. So it wasn't a predetermined reality. It was somebody observing it that you are creating it. So it was through your free will of actually observing the occurrence that created that moment. And so that's where the quantum mechanics, one, makes your head, if you're new to it, it makes your head just, because there's so many. Anybody that claims they know quantum mechanics doesn't know quantum mechanics.
Right.
Is the line I've always stuck with it. It's like, it's pretty good.
And I had Mark Fiorentino on the show 2 or 3 times, who's an amateur physicist, which is mind-boggling. He's a physicist and an inventor, but he said that whole quantum thing is just ridiculous. It's all theoretical. Billions of dollars are spent on these large colliders, and these things blink into existence for a fraction of a second. But I want to get to this. King, are predictions and calculations? That's not how I see wave probabilities. Wave probabilities are happening. And I don't think that I work with statistics all the time as an academic journal editor, or I'm familiar with statistics because they use them all the time. I don't even think that it's probabilities or calculations so much as that these possibilities are rising up all the time. So I can take this golf ball with a cool Pirates thing on it and just randomly throw it at my door. Unpredictability comes in there, and I think that's what he was saying. So I actually agree with you. And I don't think wave probabilities really have much to do with the past. Quantum physics does talk about that you can retrograde. And are you familiar, Craig, with Lynn Taggart's book and Theory of the Field?
I don't think I am. It sounds like something I need to look into.
It's very, very interesting. What random number generators that suddenly aren't random anymore. 9/11 was a really amazing example of that. But an experiment where something is pre-recorded or pre-written down, put in a locked box, a group of people get together and somehow manage to change the outcome. So, but then if you think about more spiritual conceptions of time, there is no past, present, future. And I don't know how I feel about that either. That's a big one too that makes your head hurt, right?
Well,
everything happened all at once.
Well, that's just kind of where I was just, you almost kind of beat me to it. I was just going to say time travel. So there's that theory of time travel. Doesn't that in aspect? It's one of those. I think you would have to. I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, I think it would be really hard to be a determinant and be a determinist, and in the fate category, and believe in the ability to time travel, because at that point you could change anything. Then the predetermined thing. I guess you could look at it as, I feel like this is predetermined, but I'd like to go change that. I guess you could look at it as that aspect, but it would seem more to me, you'd be on the free will side, is that you feel like, you can change you can change the path at any point. Right. That you're not just stuck on this thing. You can deviate at any point. And that's, and that gets in the whole thing. It's like, do you change path? It affects everything. So if I go back and to change my thing, well, I've just altered Joey's path because I've changed, the butterfly effect. I stepped on a bug that would have been eaten by this bird that would have created this. It would have done this, and it caused Joey to miss the light, and he didn't make it in time. And he missed a meeting, and he didn't get the promotion. And so it's like one of those things. So in that case, I go, would that have been fate? Or just, and that's where I really like this topic. It's like there's so many avenues you could branch off. There's so many little things you could break in and actually go. Fate or free will. And we could do multiple shows and just dive into specific little parts.
I would love that because so I have kind of collected stories from friends over the years where something has happened to them that should have led to their death. Like a dude was rewiring something and massive amounts of electricity went through his body. He didn't die. Other thing, Mark Fiorentino is a guy where he got a message in his voice to pull over and his tire was like gone. Or a friend of mine who drives the same route home, like it's a matter of a handful of miles, and decided to go someplace different and had a tire failure, and he stopped right in front of a garage, like right in front of a garage.
And they just
yeah. But I have one for you, Craig, and I don't think I've ever told you this before. So this kind of goes into the idea maybe of timelines or multiverses and what timeline you're on, or are you on your genuine timeline? Are you following your what First Nation people might call the Good Red Road? Your path that you're supposed to be on, which is not necessarily fate as much of the fact as there are certain things that maybe you're meant to do, which sounds like splitting hairs. Anyway, so check it out. So I in my previous life, I worked for a publishing company in Princeton, New Jersey, very affluent. I managed a team of people, but I commuted to work every day, like sort of normal people. So 45 to 50 minutes was my commute. One morning, I'm listening to Howard Stern. I'm thinking about things. I'm multitasking, and I blow a light. And there are cars coming from both directions, dude, because their light, like I blew the light and I'm in the intersection. I gripped the wheel, I closed my eyes, and I expected to get decimated. I did not get decimated, and my car was going, and there was no crunching of metal. There was no squealing of tires. There was no horns. And anybody who lives in that area of New Jersey knows if you breathe wrong, there's horns. If you deviate a fraction of a section from your path. I opened my eyes and I was on the other side of that intersection. It was the weirdest, damnedest thing. There was no way that so did I blink out? Did I go into an alternate timeline? I will tell you, my life completely fell apart within 6 months. It completely fell apart, which led to the almost putting a pen in my eye, having to completely reinvent my life, which is where I met Tanya, fell in love, moved thousands of miles from anything I've ever known, adopted, her one child, raised the other child, completely changed my life, put me back on the creative path, which I had completely given up due to my previous marriage. I have always kind of believed that some kind of cosmic hiccup happened, and I wasn't supposed to die that day. But what I really have come to believe, as maybe nutty as this sounds, is that whatever that experience happened on some timeline, I died, which allowed me to jump to another timeline, which is very close to our timeline, but wasn't genuine. And so everything fell apart. All I can say is that that's just sort of a knowing I have. I cannot prove that. I can't.
Well, I was just thinking it would, because that's always been it's Fringe, talked about it too. It's the vibration, like how you could, things are on a different vibration. So that could be one of those things like the multiverse thing. If you did at that moment, you jumped, that the Joey from that timeline is one that was in the crash. And the Joe, you went into this other one. And so why things fell apart for you is you weren't supposed to be there. So things around you didn't like it. And so things were just falling apart. Well, then eventually you synced with where you are as everything, so you adapted, you synced in, and that's when things began to coalesce and snapped you right back in, and then you took off from that point. I mean,
Yeah,
because
and
that's so that's
yeah, it's been 27 years of, it's been absolutely 27 years of awesome. And it was really kind of interesting. And again, some of the audience has heard this before, so I apologize. But some of you haven't. My son that I wound up adopting was, let me get this right because it's really important. He was a little more than 2 years old. We had given him a bath, sitting him up on the vanity there, whatever, the bathroom sink, combing his hair. Tanya's combing his hair, and I'm sitting probably like, on the closed toilet lid or whatever. And he says, "You know why your wife left you, right?" And I'm thinking, okay, 2-year-old man. I'm like, I have some theories on this, but what, come on, like, what's your? And he said, because the angels knew mommy and I needed a husband and a daddy. That's pretty profound wisdom from I guess he had just turned 3. That's pretty profound wisdom from a 3-year-old.
Oh yeah.
The angels yanked you out of your, and if you think about it, whatever happened in that intersection was kind of yanking me out of, so it was really kind of apt. And that's always kind of stayed with me too.
Because I was just thinking while you did it, what if in that timeline the person intentionally ran the light because their life was falling apart and that was their act of ending it?
Oh, that I was,
and that like what he said, that was the point where this person's, they swapped, and you actually were in that time, so that's how it. So the one that was should have makes it, and the one that was trying is gone.
Right.
So that's So I don't know.
Right.
That's
this is what happens when I only have a little cart of stuff.
It's awesome, huh?
Switch. Oh, there was another revelation I was going to hit you with, and it went out of my mind. So maybe it wasn't the right time to say it. It was just what you were saying about that switch. Oh, okay. So so I've gone through all of these modalities. I've tried all kinds of stuff. It's my nature. It's experimentation. It's guidance. It's all these different things. I've had past life experience. We've done a lot of work on reincarnation. You guys can find some really good episodes where Tanya and I have really looked at reincarnation. Tanya, in her work as an intuitive, as a psychic medium, whatever you want to call it, she prefers to call it as an intuitive. She's talked to souls who had passed away who say, "I've picked my new family. I'm ready to come back." That's really kind of cool. That's free will. I'm coming back and I've chosen the family. That's neat. That's not like, oh, here, sign this soul contract here. But Craig and Rachel with the palm reading and some other reasons, I came to the realization about 3.5 years ago that I have not, and I know some things about my past lives, and the way that I died prematurely. I got the distinct impression that I have never or very rarely died a natural death of old age. And I've kind of said this time, I would like to do that. I would like to go all the way through, whatever that means. That's also an act of free will that fate might trump for me. That fate might go, you don't get to decide. But what if we do get to decide, right? It's an interesting, who Neil Donald Walsh is, Conversations with God?
That sounds familiar. I don't know if I've, you said it's one of, I'm writing down the things I need to learn here.
Yes, kind of, yeah, that's why I didn't need notes, because I've been on this journey since 2002, if not longer. Neil Donald Walsh wrote the Conversations with God books, where he has these he asks God questions and God supposedly answered them. And they're very cool books. But in one of them, he says, anything that happens to you happens through you, and anything that happens through you happens for you. And he talks about really heavy stuff. like people dying in childhood or getting into an accident that then puts you in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. That these things happen because we make agreements. It's so profound and heavy because it involves children, it involves
Mhm.
pain, it involves tragedy. It's really, really hard to talk about fate when you're talking about death
Oh yeah.
of innocent people, or is it just random that you happen to book a flight on a plane that then goes into the ground? That maybe some people would find even more unsettling. Oh,
Well, like nine
geez,
eleven.
every
Yeah,
well,
9/11.
yeah,
The stories of the people that suddenly, I just didn't feel like going to work. I didn't, I didn't want to go to work that day. I didn't feel it, or they missed the flight because they're running late at the airport or did something. So was that fate stepping in and determined it wasn't these people's time? And that's where I said I could honestly sit here and agree and say, you're making a very compelling case of why, fate was the thing that stepped in and saved
mm,
you from that point. It's like the free will, type two, it's like you can be the same thing. Well, next time, make sure you set your alarm. It's like you
yeah,
chose not to double check your alarm. You made a
right,
choice, which ended up being in your benefit, in that instance, instead of being late for, in
yeah,
getting fired, it's like you ended up saving your life because you missed the flight.
yeah.
And and that's, yeah. And just, yeah. Amy just said, that through in to you quote. Yeah. That's what I said. I know I feel like a broken record. I say it. I go, that's the part that's so awesome about this topic. It's just that there's no right or wrong answer. It's kind of like, just because if you believe solely in predeterminism, fate, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, because I said
Mhm,
in a way, it's a calming thing that it is what it is. I mean, I actually
mhm.
live by that motto. It is what it is. I roll with the punches. I
Yeah,
go, but I also feel like I'm in the free will side.
yeah.
But you could also be that same motto and be in the fate. It is what it is, because no matter what I do, I'm going to end up here anyway.
Yeah, which feels really so if soul contact if soul contracts are a thing, I don't want to know about it. And I think that we drink from the river of Lathan and forget
Hmm.
anyway, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Cool, Amy, that's a cool synchronicity. I find it very comforting. Anything that happens to you happens through you. Anything that happens through you happens for you. It gives you a really good sense of free will. It that you're not
Hmm.
when my life isn't going the way I want it to go, here's the phrase I use. I feel like I'm a passenger on my own journey. And I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah.
Somehow fate and free will have misaligned. Um so when death is traumatic like an air crash, the spirit leaves, you don't feel the crash. This is where I think free will is very, very important. If someone be through their contract or their desire or their wanted to experience that, and that was the whole point of having it happen, I would like to think that the universe allows the soul to feel that. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying, Craig?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
the
It's
whole point, yeah, because there is a school of thought that the soul contract is this sort of itinerary of things that you want to experience in order to overcome the wheel of samsara, right? The Hindu Buddhist idea that you just keep going around, man, and you got to sort it out. And each
in
time
order to
you
get
come
up.
back, yeah, I
Yep.
mean, Tanya will say it, and I've heard a lot of people say it, like, screw this, I'm not coming back again. Like, this is my last go round. And like, can you determine that? Can you drop out of school? I think you can drop out of school, become a renegade soul, go screw you. I'm not going back.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just looking at Amy and the same thing too. It's just kind of like that. What if there is also a third option, like where there's a hybrid, where there is an ultimate fate, like you have an ultimate destination, there's an ultimate, like you said with the soul cut, there's an ultimate goal, but through free will, you keep changing paths, but like she was saying, but in the ultimate thing, fate steps in and prevents you from ending it too soon, or
Mhm.
going around the thing. It just kind of, you're being steered into this thing. but it's kind of like like a maze where you have multiple paths you can go to get to the same destination, but it's up to you to determine which path. So I mean, I guess there could be, I guess, you can make a case for that. There's a hybrid version of it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw in a third F. When I was thinking about the phone call, right? The third F is fortune. Luck, fortune.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if fortune is an alignment of fate and free will, right? Because you have to show up, right? What is that? The softball movie with Keanu Reeves? Like,
Oh yeah.
life is all about showing up, and I'm blown
Yeah.
away by your ability to show up. You have to show up. That's my problem kind of with the lottery. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
if I was to win the lot, I don't want to win the lottery. I want to get up every day. I want it right. Was it Captain Kirk says, fortune favors the prepared mind. That's always what my dad said. You got to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
My screenplay isn't going to get chosen for production if I don't write the damn screenplay. It's not going to get chosen for production if I don't send it in to somebody who can make those decisions. But does it have to be, oh, this person happened to know that person that was connected to that person, and I showed up and did this really cool thing and made a friend that I'm kind of hinting about what's going on in my life right now. It is, I'm disinclined to go as fate. I don't think I'll ever go, oh, I was destined to be a Hollywood screenwriter from day one. My free will was to pursue that for lots of reasons, including Tanya 10 years ago going, you really should be writing screenplays. Just something intuitively tells me that you should be writing screenplays. And I was like, I don't want to write screenplays. Hollywood's bullshit. Most movies suck. Screenwriters get no credit. Like, I write plays, I write novels, I write things where the writer's important. So fortune is that third one. It seems to be maybe, what do you guys think about that? Would you say that fortune could potentially be the nexus of fate and free will when they're in balance, when there are larger forces, but you're showing up, right? Craig, you're a religious person. The good Lord helps those who help themselves.
Yes.
It's not pray and sit on your ass and XYZ is going to come. It don't work that way. You have to participate in your life. Right?
Yeah, I would agree, because that was one of the things, especially being raised, it was that way where it's just, I'm just going to sit here and pray, God will provide. And it's like, yes, he's going to provide, it's, if you believe, like said, the opportunity there, you still have to go get that thing. It's like, nobody's, I need money for this thing. Nobody's just going to walk up and start throwing cash through the mail slot, and it's like, see, God provided. It's going to be one of those things. It'll be an opportunity. It'll be something to where it's like, I really need the money, where there's going to be an opportunity, like a job, a job that's going to pop up that you go earn some real quick money that's going to help you pay for that bill. And it's just, you could go, if you went, and this would go into the fate or free will. This could have been, it was fated for Joey to get this impression. You know what? I really need to clean up the property here. And I don't have time. I need to help somebody. Hey, Bob, do you have it? Do you have some free time where you can help me? I'll pay you for this. But it just so happened that at that moment, Bob was, Lord, please, I need money to pay for this bills, just open something up for me. And that's where it happened. So you could have one side saying, see, God provides. And the other one, you go from the other aspect. Well, the universe just impression upon me I really feel like, it's like, this needs to happen. And I feel like, I know Bob's been struggling, and I really feel, so one could say this is God. The other one could say scientific. No, that was just you following your intuition, and you're doing this up. And so I said, is one right? Is one wrong? No, but it's just, ultimately, it's the same thing. It's just, but it would take Bob to actually accept the offer of cleaning up the property,
right?
Get the cash,
right? And
he's got to make the choice.
I love that. I am not a dualities person. I am not a dichotomies person. I am an and person. I am not an or person. I think that they're means of control, light and dark, rich, poor, good, evil, warmonger, peacenik. It's lived in the middle where it's nice and juicy and complicated. Alien Girl, I absolutely believe that that's true. This timeline is very significant. Craig, are you connected with someone named Bryn Morgan, who does a lot of work with the Schumann resonance and timelines on
No.
Facebook?
No, I see a lot of people that do with it. That's one of those things. I'm not really entirely sure of myself about the Schumann resonance. I mean, I'm not. I see what people are saying. It's one of those things. Could it be cyclical? Could it be actually something where, those spikes? I don't know.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
kind of like the people that use the e meters while they're doing, ghost investigations. Is it really picking up a ghost? We don't entirely know. There's evidence that yes, it is. I mean, you just go through that whole thing. So, hey, Tanya, hey, how are you? So yeah, so the Schumann resonance. Yeah, I've seen some people. I mean, I don't. There's something. There could be something to it because all of a sudden you're just like nothing, and all of a sudden you just see these,
Yeah.
spikes, and then yeah.
It is. So I'm going to put it in the chat room here, folks. I don't know how Bryn and I got connected. Bryn Morgan on Facebook. On one hand, you could say, man, this is really out there because she's talking about Alarian angel forces and she's talking about galactic councils. She's talking about the Val Shadday reptilians, if you've ever heard of them. She's talking about timelines being reset and the Earth getting destroyed, but then going to an alternate timeline. Not that much different than me getting destroyed, possibly in that intersection. But I said to Tanya last night, there is just an internal coherence that is so strong in this that I don't know if I can say I believe it, but there's a certain level of some kind of truth to it that I really look forward to her post. So maybe check that stuff out, guys. It's pretty wild. Karen, yeah, my aunt would always say that she wasn't coming back. And, my Aunt Annette, I just did a blog tribute to her. She passed away a long time ago, but she was a bodhisattva. So a bodhisattva is someone who doesn't have to come back, but chooses to come back, which is really interesting. Tanya might be a bodhisattva. So Tanya, I'm glad you're here. Craig, I don't know. The numbers are still good. Let's go for a little while more.
Yeah,
there's something really cool I want to talk about, but I feel like I kind of want to keep it to the end. Do you have anything else on this subject that you
I was just going to kind of thing about what Karen was saying right there too. Is I've often wondered, because the previous lives, one, there's always been that only you can't have 17 people that were Abraham Lincoln in their previous life.
Right. Why are so many people famous people?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Why are somebody, like I said, nobody ever goes, I was Bob from Kapinski,
I was.
Yeah. It's just, you don't have a lot of people claiming that one. It's just that what I've always think is through their previous lives is there instances where, people have been read and there's nothing there. You're like, I've got nothing, because it's one, there were numbers wise, there wouldn't seem to be, 6 billion, especially with the population we have now, that there's more people on the planet than there would have been previously. So for those all to be in a previous life, the numbers don't work, as the population increases, that there's more and more people. So does that mean that more spirits, whatever, are coming into, this plane, then into this experience that is Earth? So that's one of the things I've always been curious about with the previous life, the previous life thing. Is like, where is there a lot of people that this is the first experience? We're in the virgin experience.
Yeah, and Tanya's done a lot of studying at the Edgar Cayce Institute. She's very good at this stuff. Charles brings up something, right? What makes you think that a soul can only use one body in this timeline? There are these theories, and it's really hard for me that a soul can be up until 6. A soul can be in up to like 6 bodies at once. It can actually sort of fractal. Because I have these interesting ideas, and it kind
It's
of
like having multiple social media accounts.
Yeah, you know how if you want to maximize the experience, right? So, or the movie Multiplicity, which I love with Michael Keaton. But check this out. There are these mathematicians, and they say that the Earth that the universe is not old enough for human DNA to be. Human DNA is so complicated that there aren't enough years for it to have developed. But if there is a source, if there is an architect, man, this is what happens. This is what happens when I, mostly freewheel. But the numbers are good. So
appreciate everybody watching. Like it, subscribe.
What if? Okay, so my brother-in-law used to work for a company that tested buttons for like AC Delco and stuff like that. You know how AC Delco will go, you can press this window lever on your card 9,560 times before it craps the bed. He would actually design machines. You would go into his laboratory and there were just buttons being pushed by things. If you really want to be efficient, you run numerous experiments at once. And I think that's what the multiverse is. The wave probabilities all enact. So I pick up this ball. I could try to swallow it. That happens in some multiverse. I could throw it at the door. That's I can throw it in this hand. That's another, or I could just put it down, or numerous other things. I think it's all part of it, but what we focus on, I guess, is because that's the thing. Like, if there's a multiverse, what is your consciousness right here, right now, focusing on this one? It's not like when I'm sleeping, I universe jump. So I can check in on projects and things that I have going on in other universes. But I don't spontaneously sit here with you and suddenly I'm with a different dude, or I'm doing the show by myself, or you know what I mean? It's all very profound. I don't want to get
when we go to sleep, that's the user hitting save on the file for the game, shutting it down, and they're starting up another character, playing their other character betas at that point.
Yeah, or running betas. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a movie of a writer's account of him being Lincoln while he played toys.
Yeah, that was. If you've ever seen it,
I love that movie.
I know that was. I mean, it was one of those. Was it a crazy story? Yes. I mean, like I said, it was one of those people like, oh, I'm like, it wasn't supposed to be real. It wasn't supposed to be a historical fact. It was just supposed to be just what if, the what if style movie.
I love this. The audience is so on it, right? I think there are some really new souls here currently. I think that there are too. You meet them all the time and you're like, what the hell? No, I'm just kidding. But they're also very old souls. Like Jeremy, we believe, is a very, very old soul, saying things like the angels knew that I needed a mommy and a daddy. This is great too. Maybe there are a lot of NPCs. I think there are. I think there's a lot of non-player characters that come in and come out and voices of, I design escape rooms. So I think in terms of, I can hire actors, or I can deliver through video, or I can deliver through audio, or a phone call, or the game master can have a voice, sort of an omniscient voice, or no, I'm the head of the organization that you're pretending you're agreeing to be part of for the next hour. And is that what our guides are? Right? Are they just non-player characters in our simulation? I'm loving this. Yes, we're about 1 billion years or two too young to be this complex. But if you were running multiple simulations, every simulation that you set up increases the probability to come to the solution faster, exponentially faster. I'm loving this. NPCs. Maybe lots of crazy stuff happening. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Charles says to Karen, out-of-towners. Yeah, I think there are definitely some out-of-towners. I need to plug something, speaking of all of this. 1 p.m., I'm going to be on Manson Mitchell Saturday. Craig works on Saturdays, but he's been on Manson Mitchell with me. Craig, this is my 16th visit with Manson Mitchell.
I know. I have a standing offer to be on there, and I just can never get back on the show.
Because you and I got to go on there and crush it to the national audience. But anyway, I'm going to start with St. Patrick because it's St. Patrick. They bring me in
Monday.
For different stuff, Friday the 13th and stuff. Yeah. But then I'm going to be talking about fairies and fairy lore and the overlap between fairies and non-human intelligences. Because isn't that another one? Out-of-towners. Like, what about non-human intelligences? Angels, demons, jinn, shadow people, black-eyed children. Did I say angels? Yeah.
Yep.
They're sort of non-player characters in our life too. and we started to draw them. Yeah, and are King, are fairies, or are they djinn in disguise, or are they? I'm going to be talking. Tanya and I have had a lot of experiences. It's interesting when Tanya goes out and does conferences and different things like this. People will come up to her and they'll say, "You're from the Pleiades. You're star stuff. Like you're ancient and infinite." And other people will say, "You're from fairyland." And there's this really, really interesting overlap. Charles was talking about weak spots or spots where big change can happen. These are like portals. So Point Pleasant, West Virginia, of which Joe Redmiles and I are very fond. Mark Eddy as well, if Mark is still with us. This is a portal area where it allows these bleed throughs and these doorways to other things. So Craig, when you start adding in the NPCs, if you start adding in, there's a really interesting, because I design escape rooms and immersive experiences and all, I do a lot of research on game theory, even though I'm not a video game player. But there's something called ludonarrative dissonance, the illusion of choice when you're playing a video game versus actual choice. And they always talk about BioShock, right? Where it looks like you're allowed to make a moral decision, but you're actually sort of funneled down a certain road toward the boss. Yeah, what are you going to do with the little kids? Right. Like the game by design, yes. But you know what I love? I love Red Dead Redemption because my free will is screw the fate path, screw the ludonarrative dissonance. I'm just going to ride around on my horse and do cool crap and talk to people.
The way you just said that just made me think about it. In a complete like microcosm, those type of games, those are literally almost our topic. You have a fate where there's an ultimate end game, but you have the free will to do whatever you want throughout the whole thing. But you occasionally, like I think it was, I want to say it was Amy that said it, where it's like occasionally you get snapped back into where you have to be, where you're going to be, no matter what you do, eventually you're going to end up with a cutscene, which is going to take you back on the path, like in the game. So like Red Dead Redemption, eventually you're going to get back on the path where you have to complete something to, keep progressing.
Right.
And so that's, right. So it's that same.
Yeah. So this is what happens to me. So I and this happened. It was Easter, I think 2 years ago. I'm at my son's and I have this consulting gig and I got to play all these video games. I don't have video game systems. So I'm checking out BioShock and I'm like, I want to play some Red Dead. I love like the Western stuff and all. Well, I ride around, it gets dark and I go back to my camp. And so there's some dudes hanging out at a campfire and the madam of the local brothel is there. So I'm so into this, dude. I've ridden my horse. I've, it's just a video game. So I've caused some crap. I've randomly shot some people, whatever. I'm just having fun. Total free will, total free will. No morality, no nothing. And I really want to chat up the madam, but I can't because she has these predetermined, fate is only going to allow her to say things to me that I quickly get bored with. And so I get back on my horse and go do some more crap. It is a very, very cool
you know about the Bigfoot side quest
in Red Dead 2?
Red Dead. I think it's
the first or the second.
I think it was I want to say it was the first one. I could be wrong, but there's one where you can actually search around, you can find Bigfoot, and the sad part is that you end up I think the ultimate thing is you end up killing them and it's like the last of the Bigfoot. It's like you have that option to where you can actually do that, and it's like if you do, then it's like you realize that you've just killed the last Bigfoot. Yeah, so that's a little Easter egg that's inside the game too.
So Craig, it's been an hour and 20
we have devolved into Red Dead Redemption talk. This is,
but I think it's an awesome. Parallel. It's a really cool metaphor. So Alien Girl says your soul team keeps nudging. What I learned from my mentors and all that, and how many people have experienced this in your life? Little push. Oh, geez, that was unexpected. Damn! All of a sudden, there's cutbacks at work. Well, I hate this job, but it's the only job I have. So then you get pushed again. Now your boss has written you up because somehow there was some kind of computer glitch and the thing you were supposed to file didn't get filed on time, even though you did it. Then you get shoved. Someone in the office is actively sabotaging your ass. And then you just get kicked in the ass until next week. You lose your job out of nowhere. And that's, yeah, I believe our soul team, is trying to get us towards our highest good. And then we have the other side, fate or destiny always prevails. So that's what I love, Craig. I love our approach to this show. No one's ever going to get definitive answers out of us because there are very few things that have definitive ansers.
Yes.
Very few things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
It's
took my life and press fast.
that was
forward.
the
That's
thing.
it.
That's the part I like too. It's like, and I live this like with my life. There's not very little absolutes.
Yeah.
There's a
nor
lot
should
of
there be.
things. Yeah. And just,
Yeah.
I think there's too many people that get focused on absolutes, and that's where a lot of the problems come in, is because you're unwilling to realize that it's just, there's multiple paths to something, and one way is not always, definitive. This is the only way that, there's multiple things. And it's just, I think more people just actually took the time to just like this, just have these conversations. It's like, because I'm sure there's somebody that could get in a drug out fight and lose a friendship over the fight over fate and free will. And it's like, why?
No.
It's like, because either way, it's to say, I'm on the show here. Was it fate that I was here with Joey on the show? Or was it free will that I decided one day to start podcasting and ended up meeting, we ended up meeting, through Mark, and then through Mark, we ended up getting, like I said, that could have been, it could be easily be viewed as, could be easily viewed as fate. And I could also view it as, if I didn't make that choice, it never would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely right. I want to share something with everyone before we go, just really quick. I'm embarking on a 15-day journey. Sorry, I have this little ghost of my. Sorry about that.
Yogi fast.
He's falling down.
He's going up on a mountain.
Kinda. How do you know that? Did I tell you?
Guess. No.
No, dude, you nailed it. Was that fate or free will that you do that?
That was intuition. I don't know.
Have you seen this episode? No.
I've seen this one before.
Tonight is the lunar eclipse, and so it's the 14th, and for most of us, it's the 14th, and on the 29th is a solar eclipse. Okay, the lunar eclipse is represented by the North Node, which is called Rahu, otherwise known as the head of the dragon. The solar eclipse is in the South Node, which is Ketu, which is the tail of the dragon. I love this because I write Knights and Dragons, fantasy, all of this. The 14 days between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse is called the Dragon Tunnel. It's the solar tunnel. Within that, we are going to have 3 retrogrades. So starting tomorrow, I am pushing water all day. Then I'm doing a Whole30, no grains, no sugar, no legumes, no dairy, for 14 days. I'm going to meditate a lot. Kind of get my body to reset. So it is a fast, Craig. Now, back in the day, I did the master cleanse and I didn't eat a single morsel of food for 10 days. I don't want to do that. But this will be a chance to detox. I'm drinking a little too much of the pop. I'm getting the sugar, a little bit of
it's your fat. It's your version of Fat Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're getting it all
my
in.
own version of Lent, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But for those 14 days, I'm just going to push fluid, kind of purify, cleanse, meditate, realign. Because if there are some big things coming for me in my life, I want to be ready and I want to be at my best. So I think that's how we can use these. This is how I think we can use these tools. So, folks, if anybody else is doing a journey like that or anything like that, let me know how it goes. Charles, right. Hint, push, poke, wham. I love that. That's wonderful. Karen says, thank you. There you
You're
go.
welcome.
So
Glad you everybody's enjoying it. Thank you for watching.
So next week we're gonna keep looking at some of the global elite. We're gonna look at Bill Gates.
Yes.
And then the week after, we got Sinister Ministries 4, Rael and the American Family.
Ugh.
That's some crazy, creepy crap.
This Real is a creepy one.
Yeah.
But they're no, it's just like everybody. Just thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. It's like, like, share. The usuals: like, share, subscribe to it. Do all that stuff. Bring a friend next time. But no, it's just like everybody's saying. It's like that's what we do it for. It's like we're not sitting here trying to fund some commercial. Like this is the thing. We like these topics, and we have the outro for our other show, but it's the same thing. If anybody that's watching this is like, if you guys have a topic, if you have something that's interesting, shoot it our way. Throw it in the comments. We'll see it. Give us a suggestion. I mean, it's like, who knows? That might be the next one that we put down the road that we actually end up doing. So it's definitely, because that's something like, if we think it would make a really good show, it's like, yeah, we're not going to turn it down, because it's like that's what we're doing this for. It's just two dudes chatting it up.
That's right. I just want to give a plug. Tanya is doing her health and wellness stuff full time again, which is awesome. So if you want past life readings, soul contact, tarot readings, she just had a client who helped a man connect with his cousin who had gone missing 10 years ago. He got some good answers, and his son who was unexpectedly killed in a car crash. So Tanya is the genuine article, her Reiki work, all that kind of stuff. Just DM me, and I'll put you in touch with her. So I'm just really excited that the world kind of needs a little guidance, a little love.
Congratulations! Like I said, I hope for great success for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. All our West Virginia friends, she's going to be splitting her time. So very cool. So, all right. Always a pleasure.
We will see you next week for Sinister Mysteries.